Chapter 3308. Let me correct one thing. Azure Dragon looked down at Feng Ling, who only had one head left. My awakening has nothing to do with you bunch of monster puppets. Immediately, it turned its head towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The dragon's eyes, which were filled with green light, gradually became more agile. It once again put its head in front of Yi Qing Luo. Word by word, it said in a low voice, "My awakening is because I sense your summoning." Feng Ling's pupils suddenly shrank. And just at the moment when Azure Dragon's voice fell, Azure Dragon actually used an extremely pious posture as it lowered its head towards Yi Qing Luo and spoke respectfully once again, "You summoned me to awaken, so are you willing to form a pact with me?" A high and mighty dragon. He had always been arrogant. Compared to Qi Yan, he was much more arrogant. But Azure Dragon was so pious in front of Yi Qing Luo. Even Qi and Qi Yan were stunned by this scene. Yi Qing Luo raised her head and exchanged glances with Azure Dragon. That domineering majesty which was exclusive to the Dragon clan, even if it was restrained, it was inevitable to overflow. Qi and Qi Yan's hearts were lifted up. Their boss Long's temperament. It was still the same as before. Even they, when facing Boss Long, they had to bear the majesty from Boss Long. Their master could only be considered as an ordinary person now. She would definitely be shocked by Boss Long. Qi was thinking of rushing up to help its master to ease the atmosphere. It saw its master meeting Boss Long's gaze, the corners of her lips rose, revealing a brilliant smile. That's right. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Looking at Azure Dragon, she smiled brilliantly and was unfazed. She replied, "Of course I'm willing, my purpose here is for you. Neither servile nor overbearing, neither arrogant nor rash." When she spoke, it was filled with confidence. She was arrogant, but not domineering. She was confident, but not ostentatious. Every inch of his expression, attitude, and tone of voice was perfectly controlled. Azure Dragon's eyes flashed with admiration. He brought his dragon head close to her little palm. "Please form a blood pact with me." Blood pact? Feng Ling was howling in anger. Even the palace lord didn't dare to mention a blood pact. The Azure Dragon actually took the initiative to suggest it. So be it if Azure Dragon took the initiative to form a contract with Yi Qing Luo. He even brought up a blood pact. This was the first time Azure Dragon met Yi Qing Luo. He had to hand over his future to Yi Qing Luo. What was it about Yi Qing Luo that attracted the Azure Dragon? The conversation she heard before she was sent to the Forbidden Land appeared in Feng Ling's mind. It was a conversation between the palace lord's right-hand man. One was called Yunu, and the other was Yuhan. The two of them thought that their batch of new undead puppets was still in a coma during the experiment and hadn't woken up yet. Thus, they spoke without restraint. What she remembered very clearly was that lady called Yunu said, "You must be careful of the Green Dragon's awakening. You must not let Yi Qing Luo and the Green Dragon bump into each other, otherwise all your hard work would be wasted." From the very beginning, Darkness Palace had already guessed it. Was there any connection between Azure Dragon and Yi Qing Luo? Why were all the good things monopolized by Yi Qing Luo alone? Feng Ling could hear the cracks on her face getting bigger. She couldn't care less. A pair of venomous eyes stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo's direction. Chapter 3309. Life and Death Contract, completed. When that symbol of the blood contract imprint faintly entered Azure Dragon's head, Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly swayed. Within her body, a surge of powerful energy surged. Surging violently, following Azure Dragon's low dragon roar, the rolling became more and more ferocious. She could even hear that surge of energy. In her internal organs, it kept crashing and slapping. At the profound jade heart, the scorching heat was surging rapidly. Your profound jade heart. Azure Dragon was slightly shocked as he looked at the pair of eyes closed, absorbing the fused energy after the contract between the two. The smile in its eyes became even more pronounced. Profound jade heart. When Fengling heard this word, she was stunned. She suddenly recalled the two black-robed men she met in the dark forces. A dark glint flashed past her eyes. Profound jade heart. Right. Yiqing Luo, your profound jade heart. As though she had finally found a way to defeat Yiqing Luo, Fengling laughed crazily. That's the tranquil bead, do you still remember? Did you really think that I'm kind enough to give you the tranquil bead? You don't know, that tranquil bead was actually given by a black-robed man. Ah! Her crazy words had yet to finish. Suddenly, a miserable cry was heard. A burst of black energy turned into a sharp blade, stabbing straight into Fengling's face. Fengling only had time to let out that miserable cry. Her entire face, with that sharp blade as the center, started to crack. With a "paw" sound, it split into pieces. His entire head had been reduced to pieces. Such a movement made Yiqing Luo open her eyes. Her vision coincidentally saw those few corpse puppets in front, retracting their attacking hands. Seeing Yiqing Luo's gaze locked onto them. They exchanged glances, their expressions congealed. Go. Their words fell, the figures of the 5 corpse puppets, like black smoke, blended into the air. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. It wasn't that she didn't want to chase those 5 corpse puppets. But now because the fused energy in her body was about to break through, there was no way to move. Master. Chi-Chi's worried little voice rang softly beside her ear. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the scorching agitation of her profound heart jade. She had heard what Fengling had said just now. The tranquil orb that she had obtained from Fengling, the tranquil orb that had suppressed the agitation of her profound jade heart, had been examined by Ah Xian and her ghost doctor master. There should be no problem. But Wind Chime said, was there something wrong with the tranquility bead? Was it a smokescreen that he purposely left behind before he died? No, that should be impossible. Otherwise, the 5 corpse puppets wouldn't have killed Fengling in the end to silence her. If there was a problem with the tranquility bead, would it affect the profound heart jade if she was placed inside it? Calming bead? Azure Dragon asked in confusion. Immediately after, Yiqing Luo felt a surge of energy slowly pacifying her restlessness from her profound jade heart. It was Azure Dragon. It was searching for her profound heart jade. After a while, Azure Dragon said calmly, there is nothing strange about this pearl. This profound heart jade of yours is too powerful. Your ability is not enough to match up to it. This tranquil orb coincidentally suppresses this profound heart jade of yours, in case you suffer from the backlash of the profound heart jade. To you, it's only beneficial and harmless. Even Azure Dragon said so. Which also meant that this tranquil orb. Indeed, there shouldn't be any problem. But in her heart, there was an uneasy premonition. Chapter 33:10. Lass. Suddenly, a calm and hoarse voice rang in Yiqing Luo's mind. That voice was so familiar and warm that it made her eyes redden. Tsang, Old Man Tsang. This voice was Old Man Tsang's voice without a doubt. Old Man Tsang's voice which had disappeared for a long time. Yiqing Luo's heart started to palpitate violently. Even the fused energy in her body seemed to have sensed the agitation in her heart as it started to surge wildly. Lass, don't think about other things first. Concentrate on condensing your qi, stabilize your state of mind and break through first. This is the only opportunity like this. Old Man Tsang calmly appeased Yiqing Luo's emotions, after you break through, we'll talk about other things, alright? That steady voice, which sounded like a clear spring, easily soothed the restlessness and uneasiness in her heart. It made her feel very safe. Right, she had to work hard to fuse with the contracted azure dragon's energy. Only by breaking through to the profound grade would she be able to obtain even stronger power. Only then would she be able to protect herself, the people around her and her companions. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she pressed on the rising temperature of her profound jade heart. Her vision slowly swept past those few battle pets who were looking at her worriedly, and those heaven-reaching beasts who were crawling on the ground, shivering. Finally, it landed on Zhu Wu Axayan, who was leaning against the broken tree with a pale face, but his eyes were filled with burning emotions. She pursed her lips and didn't avoid Zhu Wu Axayan's gaze. "Zhu Wu Axayan, these pills are all refined by me." Saying that, she took out more than 10 bottles from the profound phoenix ring, bottles and jars, and threw them all towards Zhu Wu Axayan. Zhu Wu Axayan's sleeves swept as he caught those bottles and jars steadily. After throwing the bottles, Yiqing Luo only felt a buzzing sound in her mind, making the dizziness in front of her become more obvious. And it was because of this dizziness. She didn't have the energy to pick out any pills suitable for Zhu Wu Axayan's consumption or external use from the profound phoenix ring. Perhaps it was because after contracting the azure dragon, the fusion of energy, her senses, at this moment, soared to the highest point. She could clearly feel that in this forbidden ground, there was a subtle flow of air which she couldn't see, little by little, surging towards her. Then, it wrapped around her. An indescribable feeling invaded her body and mind. She stopped thinking about it and immediately sat down cross-legged. Just as he closed his eyes, his chi sank into his dantian, and his mental energy gathered in the profound jade heart. Suddenly, the dizziness in his mind and the buzzing sound were brushed by something cold. Her entire body was clear and bright. Whoosh! The majestic profound glow encircled Yiqing Luo's surroundings as it started to revolve. The scorching heat of the profound heart jade began to rise. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel her own aura rising rapidly. Even if he didn't open his eyes, Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to be able to see the circles of qi waves in the air, seeping into her body. As the profound light spread, the aura within his body increased. That ice-cold sense of clarity gradually dissipated. Instead, it was a blazing fire. "Oh!" Yiqing Luo groaned. Such a change and profound strength. This meant that she was currently touching the barrier of advancement. As long as this barrier was broken, he poured all the dark force in his body into it. She would be able to advance successfully. Chapter 33:11. Yiqing Luo stabilized her state of mind as she tried her best to adjust the profound energy in her body. The more it was like this, the more he couldn't panic. After reaching the profound sky realm, every promotion or breakthrough was extremely important. If his mind became unstable, his thoughts were a mess, a weak point in the consciousness, it was very likely that it would cause the profound energy within the body to go berserk, and cause the profound heart jade to go out of control. As a result, he went berserk. In the worst case, his body would explode and he would die. The spiritual land of heaven and earth kept moving towards the direction where Yiqing Luo was sitting cross-legged. Around her, the speed of rotation was also gradually increasing. The girl's fiery red dress fluttered in the wind. Her hair was still flying in the air. A thin layer of light enveloped the girl. It made her seem even more like a fairy from the 9 heavens that had descended to the mortal world, pure and elegant beyond compare. Zhu Wu Axayan's cold eyes stared closely at the girl's face. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He seemed to be thinking about something. His brows slowly furrowed. The emotions in his eyes became more and more complicated. He seemed to be in a dilemma, but also seemed to be hesitating. Dong! There was a soft sound. The medicine bottle in his hand fell to the ground, creating a loud noise. It also awakened his meditative thoughts. Zhu Wuxin retracted his gaze and stared at the white porcelain bottle on the ground. After a long time, he reached out and picked up the bottle. There were more than a dozen white porcelain bottles in his wide palm, and a faint medicinal fragrance wafted out. His eyes darkened. It was as if a hand had reached out from his heart and strangled it. He pursed his lips, stiffly raised his hand, and opened one of the bottles. The fragrance that assailed the nostrils indicated that the quality of the pill was extremely high, indicating that the alchemist's attainments were extremely profound. He smelled it and poured one out. They were pearl-like, exquisitely carved pills. He didn't hesitate or think too deeply about what kind of medicine it was. He stuffed the pill into his mouth and swallowed it. Or perhaps, even if the pill in his hand was poisonous. As long as Yi Qing Luo gave it to him. He didn't bat an eyelid and was willing to endure the hardship. Is it worth it? In his mind, he suddenly recalled the question that person had asked earlier. That was a question he could not answer. That person's words were filled with the courage to bewitch people. He could feel it very clearly. Even for him, his mind was somewhat restrained. No. To be more precise, because in that person's words, the main topic revolved around Yi Qing Luo. Therefore, his mind was affected. Was it worth it? For a girl who no longer had him in her heart, and who loved another man deeply. He gave up the dream he once had. He gave up the position that he had obtained through countless sweat and blood. He had given up all the things that he had always insisted on. He was even willing to die for her. Was it really worth it? He had asked himself this question countless times. He could not get an answer. Even if, obviously knowing that the young lady in front of him was very possibly not Yi Qing Luo. Zhu Wuxin closed his eyes. The expression on his face and the aura he exuded. It was a rare feeling of loneliness and hesitation. In his mind, he couldn't help but think back to that day when he left the inn in South Wave Continent. Memory, Zhu Wuxin had not gone far from Valley Wind City. The human face hidden in his arm appeared on his skin. Castle Lord, thank you for saving me. The human-faced skin expressed its gratitude respectfully. However, just as he expressed his gratitude, the next moment, the human-faced skin felt a tearing pain. Chapter 33:12. The human-faced skin's mouth gave out a painful shriek. Castle Lord, what are you doing? I'm going to be torn apart, torn apart. Zhu Wuxian's 5 fingers pinched the human-faced skin tightly. A raging force spread out from his fingertips. The human face skin could feel the tearing pain as it kept on tearing its face skin. The human face skin begged for mercy in terror. Castle Lord, please spare my life. Castle Lord, I didn't intentionally hide on your body and pollute your body. I really have no choice. It thought that Zhu Wuxian was specially sent by the revered one to save it. But Zhu Wuxian's entire body was filled with raging flames, but it totally didn't seem like he was trying to save it. That's right, it was raging. Although Zhu Wuxian was expressionless and his eyes were calm. That pair of icy cold eyes didn't seem to have any fluctuations. But, as the human face skin, through Zhu Wuxian's skin contact, it could clearly sense the rage in Zhu Wuxian's chest. The human face skin panicked. The more it begged for mercy, the more intense the pain on its face became. The human face skin was filled with terror. If Zhu Wuxian used any more strength, its human face skin might really be torn apart. If the human face skin was torn apart, its grievance would also be torn apart. It would completely disappear from this world. The human face skin hurriedly opened its mouth. Castle Lord, I really didn't do it on purpose. I just want to stay alive and report to Palace Lord about the progress of the mission. Castle Lord, you and Palace Lord have worked together for such a long time and you should know Palace Lord's temper. I am also. You shouldn't have made a move on her. Zhu Wuxian's icy cold voice interrupted the human face skin's explanation. That pair of icy cold eyes met indifferently with the human face skin's eyes. The human face skin was stunned. Her. Castle Lord, you're talking about. Which her? His words had just ended. Zhu Wuxian's fingers increased in strength. The human face skin was in so much pain that it grimaced in pain as it cried out miserably. However, this pain also made it understand. The person whom the Castle Lord was talking about was Yiqing Luo. Hiding in the Castle Lord's body, the human face skin was still paying attention to the situation outside. It naturally noticed that the Castle Lord was taking care of Yiqing Luo. At first, the human face thought that, for the sake of the Venerable One, the Castle Lord purposely sacrificed himself to save it. However, feeling the fury of Castle Lord, Zhang Tai felt that Castle Lord was infuriated. Only then did the human skin realize, it wasn't fake, Castle Lord's care and feelings towards Yiqing Luo were all real. Castle Lord, it's not my fault. I'm just following an order. The human face was so scared that he wanted to cry. Suddenly, Zhu Wuxin raised his head. He loosened his grip on the man's face. A pair of emotionless eyes stared straight ahead. Since you're here, why hide? Ha ha ha. As expected of great Fort Master Chu. Every time, he would be able to discover my presence. In the direction that Zhu Wuxin was looking at, a tall, mysterious person shrouded in a black robe walked out. That laughter was deep and resounding. From the sound of it, he should be a man who was at least 30 years old. Zhu Wuxin's expression didn't fluctuate at all. What are you here for? To see if my plan is progressing smoothly. The mysterious black-robed man replied frankly. In an instant, he was already standing in front of Zhu Wuxin. The human face skin in Zhu Wuxin's hands trembled slightly as a terrified expression surfaced. Palace Lord. Chapter 33:13. Zhu Wuxin's face turned even colder, a cold light in his eyes. You shouldn't have touched her. Facing the invisible pressure released by Zhu Wuxin, the mysterious black-robed man laughed out loud. The mysterious black-robed man burst into laughter. Fort Master Chu, are you planning to harm our cooperation for a woman? Zhu Wuxin's fingers tightened. That human face was pinched in his palm. The extreme pain made the human face cry for help. Palace Master, save me, the mysterious black-robed man stood still. He had no intention of making a move, nor did he open his mouth to plead for the human face. Rip, a tearing sound was heard. The human face's scream stopped abruptly, turning into pieces. Zhu Wuxin's face was cold, and he waved his hand. The pieces of human face fluttered in the wind. At this time, the mysterious black-robed man spoke. Have you calmed down? Just as the mysterious black-robed man's voice fell, Zhu Wuxin's figure moved, and he charged towards the person in front of him with endless and terrifying profound energy. The mysterious black-robed man didn't dodge. A punch landed heavily on the mysterious black-robed man's chest. The mysterious black-robed man's body flew backward. The tip of his foot drew a deep mark on the ground behind him. He clutched his chest, and a hoarse and muffled groan came from his throat. Zhu Wuxin frowned. Why didn't you dodge? The mysterious black-robed man slowly steadied his body and swayed. How will you calm down if I dodge? Zhu Wuxin retracted his hand, but his face was still as cold as ice. In the future, if you attack her without my knowledge again, don't blame me for becoming enemies with you. The mysterious black-robed man laughed in a low voice. This laugh seemed to cause a sharp pain in his chest, and he coughed a few more times. I didn't expect Castle Master Chu to be such an infatuated person. Zhu Wuxin's face was cold, and he didn't speak. The mysterious black-robed man seemed to be long used to Zhu Wuxin's indifferent character. He leaned against a tree trunk at the side, and said with a low laugh, "Is it worth it? Is it worth it?" Zhu Wuxin's eyes flickered, but he still didn't speak. Castle Master Chu, you should know better than anyone, that the person you want, is not her at all. The mysterious black-robed man slowly raised his hand and stretched it out towards him. Why do you keep deceiving yourself? It's better to cooperate with this consort. As long as our plan succeeds, it'll be a piece of cake for you to find her. The voice of the mysterious black-robed man was full of bewitchment. How could she not be her? Zhu Wuxian suddenly raised his head, the coldness in his eyes even more intense. Not sure if he was trying to convince himself or the person in front of him, she is Yiqing Luo. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, Three Springs sect would have discovered it long ago. On her wrist, there was a unique birthmark. The profound heart jade in her body is also truly only compatible with her. Zhu Wuxian's voice became increasingly hurried. Right now, she is becoming stronger and stronger, and her transformation is becoming greater and greater. This is all because she has learned how to properly use her profound heart jade. Zhu Wuxin's eyes were no longer as calm and composed as before. Because of his impatience and the depression in his heart, he didn't notice at all. The hand which the mysterious black-robed man stretched out towards him moved slightly. Whereas earlier, the human face which was shredded by Zhu Wuxian, fluttering in the skies, it actually followed the command of the mysterious black-robed man's hand. It turned into a wisp of black-colored smoke, as it merged into Zhu Wuxian's body. Ha, ha ha. After confirming that the black-colored smoke had completely merged into Zhu Wuxian's body, the mysterious black-robed man laughed softly. Chapter 33:14. Because of this seemingly laughing yet not laughing, yet ridiculing voice, Zhu Wuxian steadied his state of mind as he regained his usual coldness. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at you, the Castle Lord of Death God Castle, heartless, destitute and heartless, actually learnt to deceive yourself and others. The black-robed mysterious man hit the nail on the head as he ridiculed him politely. Zhu Wuxian's expression sunk as his icy cold eyes burst with murderous intent. Castle Lord Chu, do you think those excuses of yours are able to deceive your own heart? The black-robed mysterious man wasn't afraid of Zhu Wuxian's murderous intent as he asked with a smile. Zhu Wuxian's expression congealed as the radiance in his cold eyes slowly dimmed. The black-robed mysterious man laughed lightly. The laughter seemed to be filled with ridicule and ridicule. It made Zhu Wuxian's heart inexplicably shrouded with a layer of restless and chaotic emotions. That restlessness made his emotions faintly emit a sliver of impatient anger. Just at this moment, the black-robed mysterious man suddenly appeared in front of him. Both hands were placed on his shoulders. Under the black robe, that pair of sinister eyes made one feel as though they had fallen into an ice house. Their four eyes met. Immediately following that, the black-robed mysterious man's bewitching voice rang, Castle Lord Chu, have you heard of possession? Possession. Zhu Wuxian's expressionless face had some changes. His icy cold and dim eyes were gradually covered with a layer of thin ice. You should have sensed it yourself. The black-robed mysterious man laughed softly. The person whom you want wholeheartedly has long changed your soul. Zhu Wuxin's pupils constricted slightly. The black-robed mysterious man had been observing Zhu Wuxian's changes. Following that, according to the changes in Zhu Wuxian's expression, he used a different tone as he continued bewitchingly, "The soul in that body is not the person who had once pledged eternal love with you. The soul in that body now is the person who had seized the real Yiqing Luo's body. She is your enemy." As the black-robed mysterious man's voice and tone gradually became heavier, the changes in Zhu Wuxian's pupils became more and more obvious. His emotions also fluctuated intensely because of the black-robed mysterious man's words. "Fort Master Chu, what you need to do is to see our cooperation through to the end. Only by ascending to the peak that we want to reach. Then you will be able to summon back the real Yiqing Luo's soul, and let the real Yiqing Luo return to your side." After saying the last word, the mysterious black-robed man gently patted Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. Zhu Wuxin shuddered. That pair of emotionless eyes faintly revealed a trace of deep darkness. From the perspective of the mysterious black-robed man, I can see it clearly. As his bewitchment deepened, the black smoke slowly seeping out of Zhu Wuxin's head became more and more obvious. The mysterious black-robed man's thin and cold lips gently curled up. His sinister and treacherous eyes were filled with a complacent smile. End of recollection. Indeed, it was just as Zhu Wuxin had thought. The pills which Yiqing Luo refined were all top-grade pills. After taking it, the effects were quickly seen. The pain in his injured internal organs also gradually subsided. His breathing had also become much smoother. He opened his eyes and his vision unknowingly shifted onto Yiqing Luo. Looking at the young lady with her eyes shut, with a serious and strict expression. In his mind, the black-robed mysterious man's words surfaced once again. "Is he going to take over my body? The soul in this body had already changed into another soul. It was the current soul. Had it seized the Yiqing Luo which belonged to him?" Chapter 33:15. But, why? When he saw the young lady in front of him, that throbbing in his heart, instead. Compared to when he was young, when he first met Yiqing Luo, it was even more passionate. Oh! This thought flashed past his mind. Zhu Wuxian only felt a sudden swelling pain in his head. As though his entire head was about to explode. That labor pain. Even he who was long used to any kind of pain, couldn't help but groaned. The pain was so distraught that he didn't have any other thoughts to think about his feelings towards Yiqing Luo. At this moment, the young lady who had her eyes shut tightly and was concentrating on her advancement, suddenly shuddered. A strong profound ray was released from her body. Bam! Yiqing Luo heard a muffled sound exploding in her mind. The profound energy in her profound jade heart shook. She suddenly opened her eyes. The profound ray released from her body became brighter and brighter as it spread in all directions. Roar, roar, roar! In the forbidden grounds, numerous demonic beasts howled towards the sky. The profound ray, after the radiance, slowly returned to calmness. Bit by bit, with an extremely slow speed, it started to retract. At the same time, no matter if it was the demonic beasts, sacred beasts, or Zhu Wuxian by the side, they could all clearly feel. The young lady's imposing manner was rising bit by bit, following the profound ray gathering on her body. When she was completely enveloped within. Bam! In the air, another burst of spirit wave vibrations was heard. Advanced, sky profound 4th grade. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly, as the chi waves from her body shook. She had succeeded. Successfully leapfrogging to sky profound 4th grade. One must know that after sky profound realm, every grade was as difficult as ascending to heaven. She had successfully leapfrogged 3 grades. If this news were to spread, the entire Nirvana realm would probably be in an uproar. Yiqing Luo could feel it. This time, her advancement felt different from the past. after the advancement was successful. Her sensing towards the surrounding chi waves, and the heaven and earth spiritual chi, was much more obvious than before. Moreover, her control towards her profound jade heart had also increased by a lot. Ha! Ha ha ha! Lass, I knew you could do it. In the azure dew bracelet, old man Song's excited laughter was heard. Good lass, I'm so happy. Ha ha ha. Old Song. Hearing the familiar laughter, Yi Qing Luo's smile became more radiant. I'm very happy to be able to advance, but what makes me even happier is... Old man Song, you're back. Old man Song's laughter slightly paused. Soon after, he continued with a smile, this old man is still counting on you to reconstruct this old man's body. Unless you don't want this old man anymore, this old man will always follow you. Yi Qing Luo also smiled, but her eyes were slightly red. I won't abandon you, never again. Old man Song's laughter gradually became somewhat choked with emotion. This is something to be happy about. Why did you make the atmosphere so emotional? Qi Yan shouted discontentedly, ugly woman, you can successfully promote, at least you did not lose this holy beast's face, it is worthy of praise. Qi pounced forward and hugged Yi Qing Luo's face with its little paws in pet form. Master is the best. The addition of the two battle pets eased the tension. Yi Qing Luo touched the two little companions' heads and immediately carried Qi as she walked towards Zhu Wu Axian. Are you all right? Zhu Wuxin was still staring at her in a daze. His usually cold and aloof eyes were a little empty. Until Yi Qing Luo's finger waved in front of Zhu Wu Axian's eyes. Chapter 33:16. In his hand, her skin was soft and fragrant. The familiar fragrance made Zhu Wu Axian relax his strength immediately. But the hand which was holding her wrist didn't loosen up. Yi Qing Luo shrank back. Zhu Wu Axian tightened his grip slightly as his cold eyes met hers. I don't understand your medicine. I've only taken one pill in this bottle and it still hurts. Help me take a look. Calm tone, calm expression. But why did the words he said sound like acting coquettishly? Yi Qing Luo took a look at the bottle which Zhu Wu Axian's other hand was holding. That was a pain-killing pill. Although it had some effect on treating internal injuries. But the main effect was to stop the pain. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the scattered medicine bottles by his leg. Let go of me first, I'll apply the medicine for you. Let go, I'll hurt. Zhu Wu Axian said without any change in expression. Yi Qing Luo, he had already taken the pain-killing pill, what was there to hurt? Using this as an excuse, wasn't he afraid that his aloof male god image would collapse? Recalling the time in South Tide Continent, Zhu Wu Axian used his own face to invade his arm as an excuse. All kinds of acting coquettishly. Alright, his persona had long since collapsed. But now it felt that it had collapsed even more. Previously, even if Zhu Wu Axian said sweet words and did romantic things, that still retained his cold and aloof nobility. But for some reason now, she felt that Zhu Wu Axian had become more gentle. As though he had suddenly thought through something and was ready to go all out. Go all out. This feeling made Yi Qing Luo feel uneasy when she faced Zhu Wu Axian. Gratitude was gratitude, but she didn't love Zhu Wu Axian. Nor could she give Zhu Wu Axian any hope. Facing such a Zhu Wu Axian. As compared to the past, the pressure was even greater. She exerted force and retracted her hand. The expression on her face was very indifferent and serious. Zhu Wu Axian, I can't be bothered to repeat the unnecessary words since you won't listen to it. She stood up and stared at Zhu Wu Axian's pale and stern face. If you're willing to treat your injuries, I'll do it for you now. If not, we'll leave the forbidden grounds now. Zhu Wu Axian raised his head slightly as his icy cold eyes gazed deeply at her face. while listening to her mouth, saying those serious and earnest words. The light in his cold eyes dimmed little by little. In the end, his eyes were like stagnant water. Yi-Ching Luo's heart jolted. Zhu Wuxin's current appearance could indeed make one feel a sense of guilt in one's heart. It was as if it was because of her words. Zhu Wuxin lost all his life force. That's right, it was fatality. It was as if all the auras in the area had suddenly gone dark and faded away. This feeling made Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She shouldn't waver. No matter how much guilt and gratitude he felt towards Zhu Wuxin. Because this man was too stubborn. His obsession was already deeply rooted in his bones. No matter how much she refused. Zhu Wuxin probably wouldn't listen at all. I don't love him. No matter how much concern and obedience. To him, they were all cruel. She could only use her own actions to show her attitude. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath, turned around and said to the few battle pets, "Go pick the gold magnetic spirit grass first." The few battle pets raised their tails and blinked their eyes as they looked behind Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Luo spoke calmly, "If he's not willing to cooperate with the treatment of his internal injury, then don't bother about him." Saying that, she had already walked towards the direction of the gold magnetic spirit grass. The few battle pets looked at each other in dismay for a moment. Chapter 33:17. And, just as the other battle pets were chasing after Yi-Ching Luo, Zhu Wuxian's vision had been congealing on Yi-Ching Luo, as his dull pupils shook slightly in his eye sockets. A wisp of black smoke. From his head, it slowly dispersed. The hands hanging by the side of his body slowly clenched. The green dragon, who vaguely sensed something amiss, raised its whiskers as it suddenly looked towards Zhu Wuxian. Coincidentally, it heard Zhu Wuxian's cold voice rang, "I'll cooperate with the treatment." The green dragon narrowed its eyes. Could it be that it had sensed wrongly earlier? Plop. Suddenly, a soft sound was heard from the side. The green dragon lowered its head and saw beside its huge dragon body, a small lump of black little thing with its four limbs facing the sky, lying by its side. The green dragon lowered its eyes. The little black ball fluttered its four limbs, trying to get up from the ground. But the more anxious it was, the more it could only flop on the ground. That little black ball was so small, just like a small mole on the huge green dragon's body. The green dragon's flame was completely retracted. The dragon body swiftly turned into an ordinary size. It lowered its dragon head and used its whiskers to gently touch the little black ball. Its noble and dignified self was now emitting a loving feeling. And it was because of this episode. The green dragon didn't delve into the strange aura which it sensed from Zhu Wuxian earlier. Yi-Ching Luo heard Zhu Wuxian's words. Her footsteps halted as she turned around and walked back to Zhu Wuxian's side without saying a word, as she half squatted down. Her hand was just about to stretch out towards the 10 over medicinal bottles on the ground. Her wrist was once again held by Zhu Wuxian. Yi-Ching Luo's expression sunk. Zhu Wuxian. Zhu Wuxian only held her wrist, as he slowly pushed her hand away and let go of her hand. "These medicinal pills, since you've already thrown them to me, then they belong to me." A deep and cold magnetic voice floated down from the top of her head. Yi-Ching Luo. If he wanted the medicinal pills which she had refined, just say so directly. Using such an awkward method, didn't he find it childish? Yi-Ching Luo only assumed that Zhu Wuxian had taken a fancy to the high-quality medicinal pills which she had refined and wanted to keep it for future use. After all, in the Nirvana realm, the value of the pill was immeasurable. Some people were even willing to give up their entire family fortune in order to obtain a single pill. So, Yi-Ching Luo couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. Zhu Wuxin wanted the pill. Yiqing Luo felt that it wasn't bad to use medicinal pills to repay Zhu Wuxian's kindness. Therefore, he took out some internal injury healing elixirs from the profound phoenix ring and began to treat Zhu Wuxin. This time, Zhu Wuxin was very quiet. Even Yiqing Luo had touched his wound. His expression didn't change at all. Even his eyelashes did not tremble. He just quietly stared at the scattered medicine bottles at his feet. No one knew what he was thinking. After a moment of silence, there were many small wounds on Zhu Wuxin's body. For some injuries, even if painkillers were swallowed, they would still hurt when the medicine was applied. But Yiqing Luo didn't even hear the change in Zhu Wuxian's breathing. This man, don't tell me they're like the undead puppets and have no senses. Yiqing Luo was bandaging his wound as she raised her eyes. The man's cold face was reflected in her eyes from a close distance. He was indeed handsome like a jade. His entire face seemed as though it was carved out of a beautiful jade. Adding on to that pair of cold eyes which seemed to see through all the coldness and warmth of the world. That imposing manner which was isolated from the world was unattainable. It could be said. Chapter 33:18. Such a good-looking man. Why couldn't he get over it, to insist on being obsessed with her? To tell the truth, as long as he slightly retracted that icy cold aura. What warmth did he not have? Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's gaze was too scorching. The man raised his head and his icy cold eyes coincidentally met with her charming eyes. His thin lips moved slightly as his cold voice carried a tinge of iciness. Why? Finally realized that this face of mine is more attractive than him. Yiqing Luo, who was caught sneaking a peek, didn't dare to show any expression. Instead, she openly stared at him directly. The man's lips curled as the exquisite cold lines on his face became gentler. If you want to look, I can let you look for a lifetime. Yiqing Luo. This fellow, when did he learn the tactic of seducing a man? Yiqing Luo increased the strength in her hand as she pressed on his wound. This face of yours is indeed good-looking, but I still prefer my Xian's face more. A man who didn't show any signs of change when she applied medicine or when she pressed on his wound. After she finished saying this sentence, all the muscles on his body suddenly tightened. The pressure on his body, at this instant, sank. Yiqing Luo was very close and could feel it very clearly. But she didn't mind it and pretended that she didn't notice it. Unknowingly displaying their affection, this was also the way to make Zhu Wuxian give up. She continued to apply medicine. He remained silent. The atmosphere became even more treacherous than before. The other few companions had long shrunk to one side, avoiding this kind of atmosphere. Yiqing Luo increased her speed. Very quickly, she tied the last piece of bandage. Following that, she took half a step back. If you have any questions to ask me, just ask. Zhu Wuxian was the first to break the silence. As long as it's something you ask, I will answer it. Yiqing Luo. He thought that she kept staring at him because she was hesitating if she should carry out a series of questions and answers. Although, when she saw Zhu Wuxian appearing in the forbidden grounds, she indeed had questions to ask. Later on, she heard the conversation between him and Feng Ling. The questions she wanted to ask were even more. But she wanted to ask didn't mean that she would really ask. If Zhu Wuxian wasn't willing to say, she wouldn't ask either. Just now, she was merely staring at him. Everyone had their own secrets. A person like Zhu Wuxin, like Dmo Xian, they were both mysterious and powerful existences. It was inevitable for him to have secrets. But she looked into Zhu Wuxin's emotionless eyes. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly recalled what Zhu Wuxian said at that time. Now, no matter what changes happen, I will always protect you. This is something that will never change. Then, there was the sound of wind chimes. Didn't you already know everything? Why did you still save her? These two sentences made Yi-Ching Luo swallow the words that were at the tip of her tongue. In the end, she still asked, "You are working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows, right?" The answer was very obvious. Zhu Wuxi nodded. Yes. You appearing here, is it arranged by the Nether Palace? Yi-Ching Luo asked again. No. Zhu Wuxin looked at her firmly. I came here because of you. Me? Yi-Ching Luo was disrupted by his words, as the firm guess in her heart was disrupted. Chapter 33:19. So, you heard that the Palace of Ombre is going to attack me in the forbidden area of the East Continent, so you rushed over? Yi-Ching Luo pursed her lips slightly as she continued, this piece of forbidden grounds, because of the sealing of the Azure Dragon's energy. It's impossible for humans to get close to this place. Since you're not relying on the Palace of Gloom to stand here safe and sound, then why are you all right? This question caused Zhu Wuxin to be slightly stunned. The calmness on his face also disappeared. He frowned slightly. You don't believe me. I believe that you won't hurt me. Yi-Ching Luo replied without any hesitation. Her voice was resolute and straightforward, but I don't believe the secluded palace. You don't want me to cooperate with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, right? Zhu Wuxin lowered his eyes, his gaze a little gloomy. He brought up the topic of his identity. Yi-Ching Luo knew that he didn't want to say it. She didn't pursue the matter. Instead, he followed Zhu Wuxin's words and replied, I hope that it won't affect your cooperation with the Palace of Darkness, before he could finish. Zhu Wuxin hurriedly interrupted her. As long as you do not wish for it, I will not cooperate. His tone was still cold and indifferent. However, his eagerness and the emotions overflowing from his eyes were filled with hope. It was as if he was waiting for her to take the initiative to speak. Yi-Ching Luo looked at him fixedly. Their eyes met for a moment. She stood up. Her beautiful face was emotionless. Zhu Wuxin, we are not on the same path. You are working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows because you need to make use of them. As for me, I am destined to be the enemy of the Palace of Darkness. Even though we don't have any conflicts of interest now, we will still become enemies in the end. Her eyes were calm. Just like that, he looked down on Zhu Wuxin. Chu Wu Axian, no matter how firm your feelings for me are, what's more important is your own goal, just like me, even if I feel guilty and grateful to you. I won't coexist peacefully with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness because of this. Just like the Gloomy Palace, even though we're working together, they won't give up just because of your feelings for me. Her words were very realistic. It was also a fact. Because the two of them did not choose the same path. No matter how much Zhu Wuxin felt that he wouldn't hurt her and could even go against the Palace of Darkness to protect her. The premise of all this was that he would not hurt her and protect her, and it would not affect his own interests. Just like what happened in the forbidden area of the East Wave Continent this time. It was obvious that the Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted the Azure Dragon. This was not difficult to guess. After all, when the Vermilion Bird was about to awaken, the Dark Forces had spent a lot of manpower and resources to obtain the Vermilion Bird. He had almost taken control of Vermilion Bird. Now, the White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird, and half of the Black Tortoise's soul were in her hands. Be it because the Azure Dragon was the head of the four great divine beasts, it was the strongest. By contracting the Azure Dragon, the Gloomy Palace's strength would increase greatly. Or was it to prevent Yi-Ching Luo from gathering the four sacred beasts? The Darkness Palace would definitely be eyeing Azure Dragon. But now, the Azure Dragon still fell into her hands. The interests of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness were severely damaged. However, to Zhu Wuxin, there were no benefits involved. That was why he could appear in the forbidden area unscrupulously and stand in front of her to protect her. Their positions were different. Their way of living was different. She had no rights to persuade Zhu Wuxin not to work together with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Chapter 33:20 Yi Qing Luo. Zhu Wuxian's expression turned increasingly complicated and gloomy. His icy cold eyes shone with a chilly glint which made one's heart tremble. Yi Qing Luo noticed the coldness emitting from Zhu Wuxian. She didn't bother about it. She just bent down and stretched out her hand to help him up. Following that, she beckoned Qi over and turned it into an ordinary tiger beast as she helped Zhu Wuxian up. Yi Qing Luo said, "Let's leave the forbidden grounds first." Zhu Wuxian stared at her back view as he pursed his lips into a straight line. Yi Qing Luo's words made him want to retort, but he didn't know how to. Indeed, their standpoints were different. The path they chose was different. The way they lived was also different. He was able to disrupt the Nether Palace for Yi Qing Luo because of her plans and missions. Just because of the Nether Palace, it was impossible to cancel the collaboration with him. Yes. It was impossible for him not to cooperate with the Nether Palace. But if Yi Qing Luo asked him personally, he would indeed agree. But he would still use another method to make use of the Nether Palace's power to achieve his goal. The destination was different. The journey was different. Yi Qing Luo might not be considered as white. But she was definitely not black. And he was completely black. His life was completely black. His future was also completely black. Zhu Wuxian shut his eyes forcefully as he allowed Yi Qing Luo to help him onto Qi-Qi's back. Qi-Qi followed behind Yi Qing Luo. The tiger beast's feet stepped on the ground as it rubbed against the leaves. It blended with the sound of the young lady's light footsteps. Vaguely, Zhu Wuxian could smell the young lady's fragrance following the breeze. She was following beside him. Suddenly, he was thinking. If it was the previous Yi Qing Luo. That completely white, kind and innocent Yi Qing Luo. If she followed beside him. Could she dye her completely black? In this way. When he fell into the abyss. His heart would no longer be empty. With the azure dragon present. All the demonic beasts in the forbidden grounds had submitted. There was no need for Yi Qing Luo to say anything. Those three-eyed heavenly beasts obediently brought Yi Qing Luo to the place where the gold magnetic grass was planted. Because the forbidden grounds was shrouded with the azure dragon's special presence all year round. The metal magnet spirit grass grew extremely well. It was full of spiritual energy. Yi Qing Luo wasn't courteous at all as she waved her hand and swept away all the gold magnetic spirit grass. "Little girl, please." Azure Dragon looked at the young girl who was slowly arranging the magnetic gold spirit grass and suddenly spoke. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and looked at Azure Dragon. This form of address. It gave Yi Qing Luo a feeling that she had instantly turned into a little Lolita. After all, Qi called her master. Although Qi Yan is arrogant and pampered, from time to time calling her stupid human, ugly woman and so on, it is obvious that he still regards her as his master. The Azure Dragon and the two of them were all sacred beasts. It was the feeling of being called a little girl by the Azure Dragon. Moreover, the Azure Dragon's tone and gaze, it really looked like a senior looking at a junior. The disheveled Yi Qing Luo coughed dryly. His gaze suddenly landed on Shiju, who was rolling and playing on the Azure Dragon. She seemed to have thought of something, and her heart calmed down. The expression on her face also became calm again. You seem to be in a hurry to leave this place. Is there something urgent? The azure dragon did not seem to notice the change in her emotions and asked directly. Chapter 33:21. Lover. Azure Dragon, who was caught off guard and stuffed with a mouthful of dog food, flashed past his eyes as a trace of longing flashed past his eyes. He glanced sideways as his peripheral vision shot a glance at Shiju, who was hugging his dragon scale and playing with it happily. His eyes were filled with gentleness. If it's possible, can you stay here for another night? Can't bear to leave this place. Yiqing Luo smiled as she asked. Azure Dragon shook his head, for Shiju. Shiju. Yiqing Luo didn't understand. Azure Dragon's whiskers rose slightly as his gaze towards Shiju became more and more tender. I believe you should have guessed. My relationship with Shiju. No need to guess, it's very obvious. Yiqing Luo nodded. You contracted with me because of Shiju, right? Half and half. Azure Dragon gave a profound smile. From that pair of huge dragon eyes, Yiqing Luo couldn't tell what the dragon was thinking. She retracted her gaze and looked towards Shiju. That's right. Azure Dragon was Shiju's father. A leopard beast and a dragon. Gave birth to a leopard beast. No. It couldn't be said to be a leopard beast. After all, on Shiju's head, there were already 2 horns which looked like dragon horns. Although, as compared to the horns on Azure Dragon's head, it was much uglier. But after all, it was still 2 dragon horns. The child left behind by a dragon and a leopard. It was no wonder that back in the magic beast forest, even though Shiju's mother was the queen of that forest, Shiju was still ostracized by the other mirage beasts. Just because Shiju's body wasn't pure leopard beast blood. If those mirage beasts knew. In Shiju's body, not only was there leopard beast blood, there was also dragon clan blood. Those mirage beasts, would they crazily lick Shiju? After all, dragon was the most noble beast in the beast clan. Cough cough cough. She had one more question. Her little Shiju, was it a dragon or a leopard? Las Luo, can I invite you? Seeing Yiqing Luo not speaking for a long time, Azure Dragon opened his mouth to ask again. Yiqing Luo regained her senses. What do you want to do for Shiju? I don't know how long I've been sealed here for, but this place is filled with my presence. The Azure Dragon used its tail to gently roll up Shiju's small body. Sending Shiju into Yiqing Luo's arms, he continued, Shiju's body has my dragon clan's blood, and after it stepped into this forbidden grounds which sealed me, it activated the dragon clan's blood in its body. It glanced at the 2 black hard objects protruding from Shiju's head. As a result, Shiju grew dragon horns even before it was promoted to a mid-high rank mirage beast. This was indeed a dragon's horn. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and carefully touched the hard object on Shiju's head. When this thing came out, Shiju almost smashed his own head. Through Azure Dragon's care, Shiju's head wound had long recovered. When Yiqing Luo touched it, her strength was very light, with a hint of probing. He was afraid of hurting Shiju. However, Shiju didn't feel any pain. Instead, his eyes curved as he smiled. Your meaning is to make use of the sacred beast's presence which you left behind in the Forbidden Zone, to allow Shiju to advance and grow. Yiqing Luo instantly understood the meaning behind Azure Dragon's words. Right. Azure Dragon's eyes gradually surfaced a sliver of solemnity, but Shiju is after all still young. If it advances in this way, it might be dangerous. Moreover, we can only assist and help. The rest will depend on Shiju itself. Chapter 33:22. Although Shiju was still a cub, but after all, it had its own consciousness. This kind of choice was naturally left to it to decide. If it wanted to maintain its current state, progressing step by step, she would also agree to it. Shiju raised its little head as its dark brown eyes sparkled with sparkling radiance, giving out a low sound. Its head rubbed against Yiqing Luo's palm. This was Shiju's answer. Yiqing Luo and Shiju signed the contract. Naturally it could understand Shiju's words. As for the others, they were all little war pets, so naturally they could understand beast language. Shiju said, "I want to become stronger." Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as her 5 fingers rubbed its little head. Why does Shiju want to become stronger? Shiju gave a low growl. Shiju replied, "Because, Mother said, as long as I become strong enough, Mother will meet me." Following that, it gave a low growl. "Moreover, I want to be like the other companions, to be able to protect Master, protect everyone." Yiqing Luo cupped its little head as she gently planted a kiss on its forehead. "Since you've decided, then listen to your father's words. I will accompany you by the side." Shiju nodded its head vigorously. It wanted to stay by its master's side. He had to make himself stronger. It couldn't miss any chance to become stronger. The place which Azure Dragon chose was the cave which it was sealed in. Because here, its remnant presence was the thickest. Moreover, it was the safest. Under Azure Dragon's help, Shiju had already started its dragon race's advancement ritual. Yiqing Luo sat by the side waiting. Unknowingly, more than half of the time had passed. The sky started to darken. A few little war pets had already nestled by Yiqing Luo's side, surrounding her in the middle as they fell asleep. Yiqing Luo rubbed the side to keep her warm, while Chi-Chi who had covered her with its furry tail. Her peripheral vision coincidentally saw Zhu Wu Axian who was resting with his eyes closed. Even if he was resting with his eyes closed, his entire body was emitting a chilly aura. This man, just like his name, as though, like a heartless person. But when facing her, his gentleness and change, she could feel it. From Zhu Wu Axian's change, to those words which he said previously, there was also wind chimes. Zhu Wu Axian should already be very clear. The Yiqing Luo who had once given him his first warmth, no longer existed. She was not the person he was looking for. But why, he has no intention of giving up. "Lass, don't tell me, you want to fall in love with someone else." Old Man Tsang's mocking voice suddenly rang in his mind. Hearing Old Man Tsang's voice, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled. Then, he pressed his hand on his wrist and closed his eyes. His divine sense entered the azure dew bracelet. She didn't notice. In the instant that her divine sense entered the azure dew bracelet, the man who was resting with his eyes closed slowly opened his ice-cold eyes. His vision was fixed on Yiqing Luo. In this dark cave, the dim light in his eyes flickered, but it was not real. Within the azure dew bracelet, Yiqing Luo's divine sense had just appeared in the azure dew bracelet when it pounced towards Old Man Tsang's direction. "Old Man Tsang, I miss you so much." Yiqing Luo hugged Old Man Tsang's spiritual body. Although she couldn't feel his temperature, but to be able to see him appearing in the azure dew bracelet, she felt satisfied. Chapter 33-23. In front of her elders, Yiqing Luo rarely revealed a little girl's coquettish pout. She stuck out her tongue and smiled at the old man. "I was wrong, I won't do it again," she was smiling. Her voice was full of laughter. Her eyes were a little red. It wasn't hard to hear. Her tone was serious as the oath. "If it happens again, even if the great Luo immortal comes, I'm afraid I won't be able to stay by your side anymore." Old Man Tsang smiled lightly, raised his hand and placed it on Yiqing Luo's head, but, this time, it can be considered as a blessing in disguise. Yiqing Luo was still muttering, "Blessing in disguise," these 4 words. Suddenly, she felt a warm and comforting palm covering her head. The temperature of that palm made Yi Qing Luo startled. Immediately she raised her head and looked at Old Man Song with joy. Old Man Song, you, temperature. She could feel the temperature from Old Man Song's body. And she could clearly feel the strength of Old Man Song's palm. This was a real body. You didn't sense wrongly, now I can already transform into a real body. Old Man Song embraced her delicate body and pulled her into his embrace. It wasn't like before when she threw herself at Old Man Song, that kind of air, without any substance. But it was real, being embraced by Old Man Song into his not considered thick but extremely safe embrace. She could even smell the pure and clean aura on Old Man Song's body that was like pure white snow. In this period of time, because of the evolution of the Azure Dew bracelet, I've sunk into a deep slumber. Old Man Song smiled and stroked her head. Originally, I still had to sleep for a period of time, but it just so happened that because you and the Azure Dragon signed a contract, the Azure Dragon's dragon breath and formidable strength woke me up. Yi Qing Luo pulled away from Old Man Song and circled around him several times. Now you really have a real body. It was no longer a spiritual form. It was no longer a feeling of wanting to touch, but the feeling of touching air. It was a real body. A real body that could be touched. Yi Qing Luo held Old Man Song's hand and was excited for a while. After she calmed down, she pulled Old Man Song and sat on a stone bench at the side. What the hell is going on? What Azure Dew bracelet evolving? Also, why are you asleep? Artifact spirits were similar to battle pets. They were all leveling up by sleeping. She had always believed that Old Man Song had disappeared into the Azure Dew bracelet. Unexpectedly, Old Man Song had always been in a state of deep sleep during this period of time. Generally speaking, as the artifact spirit of the Azure Dew bracelet, there was a precondition for it to fall into a deep sleep. Last time, it was because she had passed the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. This time, why did Old Man Song fall into a deep sleep? I'm not too sure about the specifics either. Old Man Song cupped his chin and recalled what had happened before Chen fell asleep. At that time, you wanted to forcefully undo the contract with the Azure Dew bracelet. I naturally couldn't allow you to act so recklessly. However, just as this old man was about to stop you, I suddenly felt an extremely powerful force. That power was very warm, and it was so strong that it could directly suppress the power of you forcefully breaking the contract and resisting me. At that time, this old man seemed to have heard someone say something in my ear. After that, when this old man opened my eyes, it was the time when you contracted the Azure Dragon. Powerful force. Chapter 33-24. And what did that person say to Old Man Song? Who could that person be? The person who appeared at that time and prevented her from breaking the contract with the Azure Dew bracelet. Which also meant that that person knew that she had the Azure Dew bracelet. Why would he help her? But, from Old Man Song's description and the fact that Old Man Song had returned to her side and condensed a physical body. For that mysterious person. She was still grateful. Luckily there was that mysterious person. She did stupid things that didn't succeed. Old Man Song still stayed by her side. No matter what that mysterious person's purpose was. She was very grateful to that mysterious person. If there's a chance, I must thank that mysterious person in person for letting you come back. Yi Qing Luo raised a big smile and once again stretched out her hands and hugged Old Man Song. She truly felt the warmth of Old Man Song. It made her feel like she was dreaming. There will be a chance. At that time, although my consciousness was already very fuzzy, but I can be sure that that mysterious person must be waiting for you. Old Man Song chuckled as he caressed Yi Qing Luo's head. She nested in the Azure Dew bracelet for a while. Until Old Man Song sensed that someone was calling her from the outside, she then left the Azure Dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo's mood was very happy. Not only did old man Tsang return to her side, he could also condense a physical body. And he could also walk out of the azure dew bracelet with a physical body. Only, it was still the same as before when he was a spirit body, he couldn't leave her, within 100 steps. However, he could appear in a physical body. This was already a huge improvement. In the future, when she became stronger, she would definitely be able to reconstruct old man Tsang's physical body. When Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, she met with several furry little faces in front of her. There was even a faint smile at the corner of her mouth because of the joy. After seeing the few little friends in front of her, Yiqing Luo hugged Chi-Chi's little head. "What's wrong? Ugly woman, are you a pig? Sleeping so dead, no matter how I call you, you won't wake up." Chi Yan ridiculed. Yiqing Luo's other hand hooked Chi Yan's long neck and pressed its small body into her arms. Then, she gently looked at Chi-Chi. "Did I sleep for a long time? What time is it?" "It's the time." Chi-Chi obediently rubbed against Yiqing Luo's palm. "If you continue to sleep, Master and that damn fatty's bet will be lost." Yiqing Luo immediately stood up. She had actually stayed in the azure dew bracelet for quite a few hours. She pressed her aching brows and glanced sideways at Shiju's direction. However, there was nothing there. Even the azure dragon was nowhere to be seen. Yiqing Luo was stunned. "Where's Shiju and azure dragon?" "Shiju, it." Chi licked her lips hesitantly. "Qinglong, it." This hemming and hawing look made Yiqing Luo's joyful mood suddenly sunk. "What's the matter? What happened to Shiju and Qinglong?" "Master, don't be anxious, Shiju is fine." Chi heard the urgency in Yiqing Luo's tone and hurriedly pacified her. "But how should I put it? Perhaps Shiju is the offspring of a leopard-type mirage beast and the sacred beast azure dragon. It's a little special." "What kind of special method?" After being comforted by Chi, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief as her curiosity was piqued. Chapter 33:25. Yiqing Luo raised her hand as she calmly pressed Chi Yan's head into her arms. After that, she looked smilingly at Chi. "Where are Shiju and azure dragon?" Chi Yan. Mother **Ker, was this sacred beast being despised? Was this ugly woman targeting this sacred beast? Yiqing Luo ignored the rage in Chi Yan's heart as she followed behind Chi as they walked out of the cave. When she passed by Zhu Wuaxian, her footsteps paused slightly as she glanced sideways at him. Her vision swiftly swept past his face. His complexion was no longer as pale as yesterday. His thin lips also had some color of blood. It showed that the injuries in his body should have almost recovered. She was assured, "You rest here for a while, I'll go take a look at Shiju and we'll leave this place later." "Leave this place?" Zhu Wuaxian muttered these 4 words as his lowered eyelids flashed past a chilly intent. Yiqing Luo didn't hear his murmur clearly as her slender brows rose slightly as she gave out a puzzled syllable, He suddenly raised his head. That pair of deep and cold eyes stared straight into hers. His eyes overflowed with seriousness, making her unable to shift her gaze away momentarily. His cold thin lips moved slightly. "He's waiting for you outside." That he was referring to Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo was stunned as her gaze turned serious and firm as she nodded, "Yes." Zhu Wuaxian's thin lips pursed tightly. His vision was still fixed on her. After a long time, his eyes drooped as his head also lowered. Between the two of them, there was silence. Especially that man with his head drooped, as though he was shrouded in a haze. That feeling made Yiqing Luo frown tightly. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. But she didn't know what to say. The more she said, it would only give Zhu Wuaxian some hope. In the end, she shut her mouth as she walked past him step by step. Her footsteps had no hesitation or pause. Because of that, she didn't discover it. Just as she walked to the entrance of the cave, that man with his head drooped down, slowly turned his head sideways. A pair of cold eyes stared at the back of the departing figure. His gaze, suddenly bright and suddenly dark, extremely treacherous. After walking out of the cave, the fresh scent of the forest greeted them. Yiqing Luo shook off the thoughts of Zhu Wuxian's earlier look from her mind. Since there was no way to give Chu Wuxin any emotional response, Chu Wuxin had no other choice. He had to widen the distance between them. Just as he was about to catch up with Chi-Chi and look for Shiju, suddenly, the sky darkened. An enormous creature suddenly dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. That huge dragon head looked at Yiqing Luo anxiously. "Last Qing Luo, are you all right?" Yiqing Luo was stunned. "I'm fine, what's the matter?" The azure dragon moved closer to the dragon's head and looked at her body for a while. After confirming that she was indeed fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. "It's good that you're fine. Just now, I sensed an extremely strong dark energy here. I thought that it was the group of puppets from yesterday. Powerful darkness. She was here just now. Why didn't she feel anything? Now, she was a profounder at the 4th rank of the Sky Profounder realm. His perception should have improved. Master." Suddenly, a black shadow leaped down from the azure dragon's body. That voice was on par with Chi-Chi's voice. Chi-Chi's voice was hovering between a Lolita and a Shota, whereas Shiju's voice was a pure Shota. It was so adorable that Yiqing Luo's face turned red. Chapter 33-26. Qi Yan took the opportunity to get out of her grip, fluttered his wings and quickly escaped from Yiqing Luo. "Shiju, you can speak now." Yiqing Luo was about to gently stroke Shiju's furry little head. But when he looked down, he saw the little thing in his arms. Yiqing Luo was dumbfounded once again. In his bosom was a little black ball. It was indeed a little black ball. However, when he held it in his arms, the furry sensation had already turned into incomparably hard scales. That's right, scales. Can you imagine, a leopard with the appearance of a small leopard but covered in dragon scales? Not only that. Those 2 dragon horns on Shiju's head also revealed the embryonic form of dragon horns. Although it was still a pitch-black mass. But at least it had a shape. Yiqing Luo finally understood. Why was Chi-Chi so hesitant when she mentioned Shiju? After all, it was her little battle pet. Chi-Chi was still very clear about it. She preferred cute, furry little things. It wasn't that Shiju wasn't cute now. Instead, this appearance was really a little strange. "Mistress." Shiju tilted its head and its bright brown eyes were filled with grievance as it looked at Yiqing Luo's startled expression. "Mistress doesn't like me anymore." Yiqing Luo hugged it tightly. "Cough, how could I not like Shiju? I'm just a little shocked." Shiju's eyes suddenly lit up. Rubbing her little head against Yiqing Luo's bosom, "I knew Master wouldn't hate me. Big Brother Scarlet Flame only knows how to scare me." Saying that, it raised its head and stared at Yiqing Luo seriously. "Master, I'm only in the evolution stage now. When I'm through the evolution phase, I'll return to my furry self." Yiqing Luo tapped its little forehead. "No matter what Shiju turns into, I like it." However, she raised her eyes and looked at the azure dragon with some astonishment. Because of the difference in race, the way Shiju evolves is also different. Generally speaking, like Chi-Chi and Qi Yan. If they wanted to evolve, they would do so in a deep sleep. Why was it Shiju's turn? It was just that its outer appearance had the symbol of the dragon clan. The azure dragon looked at Shiju lovingly. It should be because the dragon race is different from the leopard race. That loving look made Yiqing Luo unable to bear it as she hugged Shiju in her arms. He could tell. Azure Dragon truly loved his son. Suddenly, she thought of something. Are you going to the magical beast forest to look for Shiju's mother? The emotions in Azure Dragon's eyes fluctuated greatly. But soon, everything returned to normal. Its dragon whiskers drooped, and the light in the depths of its eyes dimmed a little. For now, I won't go, but... Yiqing Luo didn't know much about the past between the green dragon and the mother beast, so she wasn't in a good position to make any suggestions. Alright, as long as you think it through. The azure dragon raised his head and looked towards the sky. He laughed softly. He handed Shiju to you, hoping that you can help Shiju become stronger. This is his hope, so... I will accompany Shiju and you, waiting for the day she appears on her own accord, interracial love. The hardships and feelings involved. Yiqing Luo couldn't empathize with it. Her lips curled upward slightly as she nodded her head vigorously. Yes, no matter if it's Shiju or you will not let it down. The agreed time with Hao Nanren was approaching. Yiqing Luo asked the war pets to prepare and return to the cave, intending to ask Chu Wuxin to leave together. But after entering the cave... Chapter 33:27. Zhu Wuxin was not inside. Even the place he was sitting on was flat, as if no one had ever sat there before. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Was Chu Wuxin going to disappear again? Was it the same as the inn on the South Wave continent? Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's mind surfaced the scene of Zhu Wuxian raising his cold eyes to look at her. He asked, "Is he waiting for you outside?" She answered, "Yes." At that time, his eyes lost all light. It was because of this sentence. Was that why he chose to leave alone? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly as she turned around and replied indifferently, "Since he has left first, let's go too." If Chu Wuxin couldn't get rid of his obsession with her, between them, this was indeed the only way. Leaving alone was the best choice. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to leave, Azure Dragon suddenly opened his mouth. "Last Qing Luo, wait." Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. Azure Dragon's eyes darkened and he asked solemnly, "How did he leave?" "This. I don't know." Yiqing Luo shook her head. "Before I walked out of the cave, he was still there. Just now, we were outside the cave the entire time, but we did not sense his aura when he left." The Azure Dragon's tone became heavy. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Indeed. They were at the entrance of this cave just now. Nor did he leave. She did not see Zhu Wuxin come out. But now... Zhu Wuxin wasn't here. How on earth did he leave? Or perhaps, just how powerful was he? Even the Azure Dragon could not sense his aura. Alright, since he has already left, there's no point in delving into this matter. Seeing Yiqing Luo keeping silent, Azure Dragon sighed. "You should rejoice that you and him are not enemies, otherwise it would be difficult to deal with him." Yiqing Luo's vision shot towards the direction where Zhu Wuxian was sitting earlier. That was right, if it was an enemy. Chu Wuxin was definitely, even more difficult to deal with than the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Should she rejoice that Zhu Wuxin was obsessed with her? Actually, her selfish hope. Being able to get along with Zhu Wuxin was like getting along with Long Yunjian, Qiao Jin, and the other brothers. However, he could only think about it. Just like that, a man and a group of beasts arrived at the entrance of the forbidden area. Yiqing Luo was just about to keep the little companions into the pet space. Suddenly, the lush grass in the surroundings swayed. Following that, many normal-sized three-eyed heavenly beasts emerged from the ground. The one in the lead was none other than Zhao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast. Little by little, more than 50 of them surrounded him from all directions. Yi Qing Luo frowned and stood in front of her companions. What do you want to do? These three-eyed heaven-reaching beasts prostrated themselves on the ground in fear when the azure dragon appeared yesterday. Then, he tucked his tail between his legs and left dejectedly. Now, he actually came to look for trouble again. Were they not afraid of azure dragon? Roar! Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast took a step forward and growled at her. Human, we're not here to cause trouble. We just want to thank you and beg you to forgive us for our reckless actions yesterday. Did he come to express his gratitude and apologize? Chapter 33:28. If it wasn't for the contract between you and Lord Azure Dragon, I'm afraid we would still be controlled by that bunch of people. So it's necessary to thank them. Jiao Tutu's heavenly beast lowered its head slowly and its front limbs also prostrated. It made the most respectful gesture. After that, it continued, what questions do you want to ask? As long as I know, I will definitely answer. Those ferocious three-eyed heavenly beasts yesterday. At this moment, all of them were extremely obedient. Yi Qing Luo smiled and asked, why did you help that bunch of monsters? And when did they come into this forbidden area? Answer me in detail. If we don't help them, all the demonic beasts in this area will be annihilated. The heavenly beast's eyes were filled with anger. As the boss of this area, I will absolutely not allow any human or any other species to bully the demonic beasts. How cruel were the methods of the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qing Luo was very clear about it. To be able to make the arrogant three-eyed heavenly beast, the strongest among the demonic beasts, so resentful and unreconciled, it must be some underhanded means that forced the three-eyed heavenly beast to provide help. As for when they came here, the heavenly beast thought for a moment. We are demonic beasts. Those beasts in the outside world cannot tolerate our existence. Of course, we don't have a good impression of those beasts and don't want to interact with them, so this area belongs to us demonic beasts. And because of Lord Azure Dragon's suppression, humans can't step into this area, but just 3 days ago, a group of monsters who claimed to be from the Palace of Darkness broke in. Their bodies were filled with the aura of the dead and their bodies were rotting. No matter how we attacked, those monsters could get up again. After they found the place where Lord Azure Dragon was sleeping, the 6 people you saw yesterday followed them here. After saying those words, the heaven-reaching beast added, it is clear that their target is Lord Azure Dragon. Based on their conversation, it seems that they have a way to contract Lord Azure Dragon. Merely, the prerequisite for that is to prevent you from contacting Lord Azure Dragon. She was also aware of this point. Just like before, the heavenly beast was eager to chase her out of the forbidden area. And without hesitation, it told her the location of the metal magnet spirit grass. It only hoped that she would leave quickly. Why? From the very beginning, the Palace of Darkness was so sure that if Azure Dragon met her, he would definitely form a contract with her. Could it be that the secluded Darkness Palace had long seen through Shiju's identity? Or, the Abyss Palace believed that as long as it was one of the 4 sacred beasts, they would form a contract with her unconditionally. After all, she already had 2 holy beasts and a half-soul holy beast by her side. Also, contract a sacred beast, especially a sacred beast like the Azure Dragon. If it was not voluntary, wasn't it as difficult as ascending to the heavens to form a contract? What method did the Palace of Gloomy Darkness have to be so sure that they could contract the Azure Dragon? They didn't say the specific reason, so we don't know either. Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast saw that Yi Qing Luo didn't speak for a long time and took the initiative to speak. Yi Qing Luo's vision fell back onto it. All right, I can feel your sincerity, go back. She smiled and waved at them. However, the 50-odd piercing beasts still stood their ground, showing no signs of moving aside. Chapter 33:29. In order to express my thanks, I've selected 30 of the strongest heaven-reaching beasts among our heaven-reaching beasts as my thanks gift. Jiao Tutu's beast had just finished its sentence. The heaven-reaching beasts that were surrounding them moved to the front and formed a line in unison. I have this confidence that the strength of our heavenly beasts is much stronger than those so-called high-level mirage beasts outside. Jiao Tutu's sky-reaching beast looked at the 30 sky-reaching beasts that had stepped forward with pride in its eyes. Yi Qing Luo. Giving away brothers without a word. 30 three-eyed heavenly beasts. Just like that. Chi Chi said, Master, quickly agree. Three-eyed heavenly beasts are the most powerful beasts among the demonic beasts. It's not a bad choice to let a group of demonic beasts be our servants. Qi Yan agreed. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips and looked at the beast. You really want to give these 30 beasts to me? Jiao Tutu's beast nodded. I have considered it for a long time. This is the result of careful consideration. Of course, I am not giving them to you purely to repay your kindness. Most of the reason is to thank Lord Azure Dragon. The Azure Dragon who was named looked up at them. Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast's eyes immediately lit up with excitement. While Lord Azure Dragon was asleep, he used his own power to protect this area. It's also because of Lord Azure Dragon's protection that our three-eyed heaven-reaching beast race has been able to flourish until now. The heavenly beast's attitude was very firm. Yi Qing Luo had no intention to decline. Most of the brothers in Devil class did not have their own battle pets. If they could let the heavenly beasts contract with them or become their battle partners, it was a good choice. She pondered for a moment and said, I can accept these 30 heavenly beasts. But I do not intend to keep them by my side. Jiao Tutu's heavenly beast was stunned, a trace of hesitation flashed in its eyes. Yi Qing Luo did not intend to hide her decision from the heavenly beast and continued, I will arrange for them to be my brother's battle pets. Of course, I can promise you that these heavenly beasts will choose their own masters and they can choose to contract or be companions by their side. When Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast heard these words, the expression in its eyes relaxed a little. As long as they want to return here, they can. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she looked around at the 30 heavenly beasts. If you agree, I will take you in. The heaven-reaching beast hesitated for a moment. In the end, he raised his head and looked at her with determination. I believe in Lord Azure Dragon's choice. I believe in you. Outside the forbidden area. The current scene wasn't the same as the previous day, where the people of the various factions were gathered together. The faces of the dozens of people who stayed behind were pale and filled with anxiety and fear. At the very front of the entrance of the forbidden area, Hao Nanren couldn't hide the pride on his face. Yi Qing Luo had only set a time limit of 48 hours. Now, 40 hours had passed. Just another 8 hours, whether it was Yi Qing Luo or the royal family's power. They would all belong to his Jade Dome sect. However, he seemed to be the only one with a smile on his face. Suddenly, the sound of someone kneeling on the ground could be heard. Overlord, Overlord, Miss Yi will be fine, I beg you. I beg you to help the East Continent first, help the East Continent. The dozens of people who stayed behind looked over. Chapter 33:30. These 10 over people who stayed behind were the representatives of various powerhouses who stayed behind. The other powerhouses' cultivators had all rushed back to their own powerhouses. Because just yesterday afternoon, a mysterious powerhouse attacked the East Continent. Previously, they had only heard of monsters that were invulnerable and impervious to fire and water, but now, they had appeared on the Eastern Continent. They then realized. Why did the South Continent fall in such a short period of time, almost being annihilated? Secluded Palace's attack was swift and sudden. Most of the powerhouse's cultivators were still gathered at the entrance of the forbidden grounds. Towards this sudden attack, they had yet to react in time. East Continent had already been invaded by more than half of their territories. East Continent monarch was already mentally prepared. But he had not expected that secluded palace would choose this timing to attack the East Continent. He immediately stabilized the cultivators' emotions as he arranged for them to fight against the secluded palace in an orderly manner. At least till Yi Qing Luo came out of the forbidden grounds. Most of the cultivators had some suspicions towards Yi Qing Luo, placing all their hopes on a 15-year-old young lady. This was something which they could not accept. But now that things had come to this, they had no other choice. No matter if it was to hold on till Yi Qing Luo came out of the forbidden grounds, or for their own territories. They had to rush up and fight against that bunch of monsters. Outside the forbidden grounds, every powerhouse's cultivators left one or two people behind to watch over the forbidden grounds while the rest returned to their own forces to fight. Secluded Palace's attack was extremely overbearing. As though they wanted to occupy the East Continent in the shortest amount of time possible. East Continent monarch guessed. Possibly, Secluded Palace's people wanted to take advantage of Yi Qing Luo's absence to occupy the East Continent. So that was why they were so overbearing. But East Continent monarch's guess was nonsense to Hao Nanren. As one of the four major sects, the sect master of Jade Dome's sect who was stationed in the East Continent, Hao Nanren had no intention to help Secluded Palace's attack at all. The entire Jade Dome sect was indifferent as though they were hanging on high. Whereas Hao Nanren was calculating the time in his heart. As long as it was more than 48 hours, he would be able to openly let the Death Warriors seal the entrance of the forbidden grounds. Even if Yi Qing Luo was still alive, he also wanted her to die in there. As for the East Wave Sovereign and the profound practitioners of the other forces, they had repeatedly persuaded him to arrange for people to stand guard here. As the sect master of the Jade Dome sect, he had no choice but to come out and fight. But Hao Nanren's arrogant attitude. He wanted all the people from the major forces to completely give up on him. It was a matter of life and death, and it was also a matter of the survival of the continent. Hao Nanren's actions made most people in the East Wave continent completely disappointed in the Jade Dome sect. Especially, it was at this moment. The East Wave monarch knelt down in the direction of Dmo Xian and said those words. This caused the profound practitioners that had stayed behind to be extremely shocked. Di Zun. It was a masked man dressed in purple. Was it Di Zun? Had they heard wrongly, or had the East Wave sovereign spoken wrongly? However, a glimmer of hope gradually rose in their hearts. If the man in front of him was really the legendary Di Zun, the East Wave continent would be saved. However, such a hope had yet to take shape in the hearts of the crowd. The elegant man slowly turned to look at the East Wave sovereign, who was kneeling on the ground. He was clearly wearing a mask. But everyone could clearly feel it. Chapter 33-31. At this moment, everyone suddenly realized. This man's aura was actually so strong. Just before this, they only felt that this man was noble and elegant, with an extraordinary status. But now, when the man's aura was fully unleashed, from head to toe, that overbearing, powerful, dignified and noble aura was like a scorching sun. It made one unable to shift their gaze away, but unable to look straight at his nobility. The Overlord. If this man was the Overlord, they absolutely had no doubt. They were saved. They were saved. Everyone's heart surged with a huge sense of joy. As long as the Overlord took action, there was nothing to fear about the secluded palace. I am here to accompany my wife. The man's cold voice was calm and serene. It was just a simple sentence. It made the surrounding people's backs soaked in cold sweat. Following that, the surrounding cultivators who stayed behind suddenly reacted to a very important matter. Earlier, the lady who entered the forbidden grounds was the Overlord's wife. The Overlord and the West Continent's original Three Springs sect's young matriarch, Yi family's seventh Missy, were together. Basically, the entire Nirvana realm had heard about it. That meant the lady who was addressed as Imperial Madam by the East Continent monarch. The lady who walked into the forbidden grounds and whose life and death was unknown. Was that legendary figure, Yi's seventh Missy? No wonder. They felt that Yi Qing Luo's name was extremely familiar. The cultivators who stayed behind started to feel apprehensive. Yi Qing Luo was the Imperial Madam, the Overlord's wife. The Overlord's wife had entered the forbidden grounds. There was no way anyone could walk out of that place alive. If the Imperial Madam really couldn't walk out. If the Overlord was infuriated. No one dared to think about it. All of them shifted their vengeful gazes onto Hao Nanren. If it wasn't for the Jade Sky sect master, they would have targeted the Imperial Madam. The Overlord had already helped the East Continent to deal with the secluded palace. The East Continent wouldn't be like this, losing a third of their territory. Now, even the remaining territory was about to be forcefully invaded by the secluded palace. Moreover, Hao Nanren wasn't surprised at all, and looked extremely pleased with himself. It was obvious that he had long known about the Overlord and Yi Qing Luo's real identity. At the thought of this, everyone's resentment toward Hao Nanren grew. It was obvious that Hao Nanren was using the public to deal with Lady D. As the sect leader of the Jade Dome sect in the East Continent, he should settle the conflict between him and the Lady Emperor himself. He had used the innocent onlookers to create momentum for himself and target the Imperial Madam. If he did this, the Overlord might let him off for the sake of his status as the sect leader. However, did Hao Nanren not care? Would they offend the Overlord because of this? Lord Overlord, Imperial Madam agreed to come to Eastwater Continent. Doesn't that mean she agreed to help Eastwater Continent? Lord Overlord, for Imperial Madam's sake, I beg you, please help. The East Wave Sovereign kowtowed heavily. When the Palace of Netherworld was attacking the East Continent in a threatening manner. As the East Wave Sovereign, he was unable to rush to the front lines and stop the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Because he was the monarch of the East Wave Continent. More importantly, only Yi Qing Luo could save the East Continent. Chapter 33-32. However, whenever the news of cities being invaded came, the East Wave monarch couldn't sit still anymore. He was a smart man. He could tell how much the Overlord doted on the Emperor Lady. Therefore, the East Wave monarch wouldn't use any righteousness to persuade the Overlord. Instead, he used the Emperor Lady. As expected. After hearing about the Emperor Lady, the Overlord slightly raised his eyes under the mask. That cold and sharp gaze was like a sharp blade that pierced straight into his heart. The East Wave monarch felt a chill down his spine and cold sweat rolled down his forehead. It's because little Luo wants to play that I didn't destroy the East Wave continent. Dmo Xian pursed his thin lips. His voice was so cold that it made one's hair stand on end. The fear in the East Wave monarch's heart rose to the peak. The other cultivators hated Hao Nanren even more. Overlord, the one who has been targeting the Emperor Lady and instigated her to enter the forbidden area, is the sect master of the Jade Dome sect. We will hand the sect master of the Jade Dome sect to the Overlord and let him do whatever he wants. The East Wave continent will not complain. We only hope that the Overlord can save us. Yes, yes, yes. It's the sect master of the Jade Dome sect's fault. He forced the Emperor Lady to enter the forbidden area. We will throw the sect master of the Jade Dome sect into the forbidden area and let him find the Emperor Lady. As the profounder spoke, they swarmed towards Hao Nanren's direction. Hao Nanren's behavior had completely annoyed the people of the East Wave continent. The overlord's name was right there. They would rather offend Hao Nanren. They didn't want to offend the overlord. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you touch me? Hao Nanren didn't expect that the group of cultivators would suddenly attack him. Hao Nanren scolded them with a red face. However, he was directly flipped over by a group of people and pressed onto the ground. No matter how Hao Nanren yelled, those cultivators refused to let go. Hao Nanren was the sect master of the Jade Dome sect. His profound grade was extremely high and he wasn't weak. But after all, he couldn't fight against all sides. Especially, he didn't believe that this group of cultivators from small forces would dare to make a move against him. The entire area outside the forbidden area was in a hubbub and chaos. At this moment, suddenly, there was a loud explosion. Following this, countless bird-type demonic beasts flapped their wings and dyed the sky pitch black. The smell of blood and slaughter began to spread. A terrifyingly powerful dark force emanated from the surroundings. This caused everyone in the surroundings to stop what they were doing and look towards the horizon in shock. The East Wave Sovereign's face turned pale. Not good. The people from the Palace of Gloom are here. Dark Nether Palace. The profound practitioners who stayed behind cried out in shock. Why did the people from Dark Nether Palace attack here? Could it be that they have already occupied Jade Dome City? That's not right. The East Wave Sovereign's expression was solemn as his gaze swept towards the entrance of the Forbidden Grounds. Their goal is to seal the entrance of the Forbidden Grounds and prevent the Imperial Madam from leaving. The profound practitioners panicked. How did they know that the Imperial Madam was in the Forbidden Area? Is there a spy? Ah! Suddenly, a scream rang out from the crowd. A profound practitioner was sent flying. Following this, a giant bird beast swooped down from the sky and grabbed onto the profound practitioner's shoulder, lifting him into the air. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, countless birds and beasts rushed towards the profound practitioner. Chapter 33-33. It floated down from the sky, only the torn pieces of the profound practitioner's clothes remained. All the profounders exclaimed in surprise, and their gazes were filled with astonishment as they looked at the birds and beasts that filled the sky. This group of birds and beasts were so ferocious. They were so fast that they couldn't even react. Screech! After tasting the human blood, the birds and beasts cried out in excitement. Huge birds and beasts were circling in the sky. The sharp eyes of the beast seemed as if it was staring at its prey as it stared fiercely at the profounders below. Someone is coming. The cultivators were in this strange atmosphere. A group of people walked in from the outside of the faintly discernible enchantment. There were about 30 people in that group. The person walking at the front was a woman in a black robe with an exquisite figure. The woman slowly walked to the entrance of the forbidden area and fixed her gaze in the direction of the entrance. Is it here? The woman's voice was seductive. A burly and expressionless man behind her nodded. The woman waved her hand. Go, set up the array formation and seal the entrance. The rest of you, kill everyone here. The woman's arrogant words. It stunned everyone present. They looked at the clothes of the woman and the 30 people behind her. They were from the Palace of Darkness. Who was this woman? She wanted to kill all of them with just 30 people? Were the people from the Palace of Darkness so arrogant? However, there was no time for everyone to be shocked. As the woman gave the order, the people behind her moved quickly. The birds and beasts in the sky also swooped down. The expressions of the cultivators changed drastically and they panicked. They started to deal with the people from the Palace of Darkness who had suddenly barged into the forbidden area. They couldn't care less about how Nanren who had fallen to the ground. These 30 people were not humans at all. They were corpse puppets. The 60 or so people who stayed behind to guard the place were all profound practitioners who couldn't be considered to be very strong. They had no chance of winning against these corpse puppets. In addition, there were 2 new corpse puppets. They rushed towards the entrance of the forbidden area and started to set up the array formation in an orderly manner. For a moment, the back mountain of the Jade Dome sect was filled with blood. Blood-curdling screams rose and fell. Looking at the 2 majestic undead corpse puppets fiddling with the array formation, the East Wave Sovereign's face turned pale with fright. He immediately looked at Dmo Xian who had unknowingly hidden in the dark. The secluded Darkness Palace obviously intended to stop Yi Qing Luo from walking out of the forbidden grounds. What's wrong with His Majesty? Isn't he going to make a move? Instead, he allowed the monster from the Palace of Darkness to set up a formation at the entrance. The East Wave Sovereign could not understand this at all. What on earth was the Overlord thinking? Hearing the miserable screams in his ears, as well as the screams of countless profound practitioners, telling him to quickly flee, he felt a chill run down his spine. The East Wave Sovereign's body was trembling. His hands, which were hanging by his side, suddenly clenched. When he looked up again, his eyes were filled with determination. He strode towards the direction where Dmo Xian was hiding. He took a step forward. Suddenly, an oppressive force attacked him from behind. His wrist was tightly gripped by an extremely strong hand. Immediately after, an ice-cold sensation pressed against his neck. Don't even think about asking the Overlord for help. How Nanren's cold voice was heard beside his ear. The East Wave Sovereign was stunned as his body stiffened. What are you doing? Chapter 33-34. Are you crazy? The East Wave Sovereign's pupils contracted as he roared in disbelief. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness wants to trap the Empress in the Forbidden Grounds because they are afraid that she will affect their plans to invade the East Wave continent. If we really let the Dark Nether Palace form the formation, the entire East continent will be destroyed. How Nanren grinned maliciously as he tightened his grip on his struggling body. This sect master doesn't believe that without her, the East continent will be destroyed. This sect leader is the sect leader of one of the 4 great sects. Can't you deal with the Palace of Darkness? Generally speaking. Yi Qing Luo walked into the Forbidden Grounds. Most likely, he had died inside. He told the people of the Dark Abyss Palace to set up a formation to seal the entrance of the Forbidden Land. It was safer. How Nanren naturally wouldn't stop them. Looking at the 2 men, they quickly set up the array formation. It was obvious that the formation was extremely complicated. In his heart, he was faintly hoping that Yi Qing Luo had not died in the Forbidden Grounds. He did not die, but he could not walk out of the Forbidden Land. It felt like he was trapped in the Forbidden Land until he died. This was true despair. The East Wave Sovereign's face was extremely pale. The sharp blade on his neck had already cut through his skin. The stinging sensation caused him to scrunch up his face. The East Wave Sovereign glanced at the elegant and noble figure in the darkness from the corner of his eye. The blood-curdling screams became increasingly shrill in his ears. There were fewer and fewer profound practitioners from the forces who were still alive. No. He couldn't let the headmaster of Abyss Palace continue like this. No matter what the Overlord was thinking. He couldn't wait any longer. As long as the Palace of Gloomy Darkness knew that Dizun was here, he would definitely not dare to act rashly. I advise you to behave yourself and not play any tricks. How Nanren threatened the East Wave's sovereign as if he had sensed that something was wrong with the East Wave's sovereign's aura. The East Billow monarch's eyes narrowed. He raised his hand and grabbed How Nanren's arm. Then, he opened his mouth and shouted towards the direction of the darkness, "Emperor." One word came out of his mouth. There was a sharp pain in his wrist. How Nanren grabbed the East Wave's sovereign's arm. Then, he melted the dagger in his hand. "You're back." Suddenly, the concealed Dmo Xian slowly opened his mouth. His voice was very soft, very low. If not for the fact that How Nanren and the East Wave's sovereign were so close to each other, she probably couldn't even hear the 3 words that floated out of his mouth. And it was precisely because of these 3 words of Dmo Xian. How Nanren's hand that was holding the dagger froze. Not good. The female leader of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness suddenly looked at the entrance of the Forbidden Grounds in fear. She strode toward the 2 undead puppets. "Quick! We have to be fast," however, before the woman could finish her words. Her coquettish and charming face instantly turned ashen. Bang! In the air, the sound of explosions was deafening. The surrounding air seemed to be squeezing a huge amount of energy. The astral wind suddenly rose and enveloped the entire back mountain. Everyone could feel it clearly. The ground beneath his feet trembled and slowly cracked. The gigantic birds and beasts that filled the sky suddenly let out fierce roars. Another wave of rapid flapping of wings could be heard. Tight and tight. Swish, swish, swish. The birds and beasts seemed to have lost all their vitality and fell from the sky. The dark sky that was covered by the birds and beasts once again regained its original brightness. What's going on? How did these birds and beasts die? All dead, all the birds and beasts died just like that. Chapter 33-35. They were not the only ones who were shocked. The people from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness were also stunned by this scene. They knew the power of the birds better than anyone else. But now, they didn't even see who did it. Hundreds of birds and beasts died just like that. The woman's face darkened. She frowned and stared at the sky. But at this moment, the sky was once again shrouded in darkness. What's going on? Are the birds here again? The profound practitioners looked around in panic. But the woman's face was not one of joy at the arrival of reinforcements. Instead, it was one of paleness and gloom. That majestic power was getting closer and closer. Fierce astral winds constantly collided with the surrounding air. The huge dark force was monstrous. Roar, roar, roar. Suddenly, the deafening roar of beasts rose and fell. Everyone saw rows of neatly organized shadows rapidly approaching from the horizon. Looking at the silhouette, looking at the size, it should be a beast that moved on 4 legs. But, why would a beast that moved on 4 legs appear in the sky? The orderly rows of shadows covered the sky. Suddenly, a green light appeared. The flickering azure light lit up the dark sky with sparkling light. After that, a deafening dragon roar reverberated throughout the back mountain. Roar, 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 the beasts growled in unison to show their respect. Then, a green dragon gathered and circled the sky. Pieces of green dragon scales glowed brightly, full of power. A powerful pressure pressed down on him. Dragon, that's a dragon. The woman looked at the green dragon circling the sky in shock. She could not hide the shock on her face. The 2 new undead corpse puppets were so intimidated by this majestic aura that they stood rooted to the spot, staring at the sky without blinking. The profound practitioners who were still alive, as well as How Nanren and the East Wave's sovereign, were shocked by the scene in the sky. They could not believe what they were seeing. Were they dreaming? Dragon, it's really a dragon. The dagger in How Nanren's hand slipped. He stood up slowly and looked at the giant dragon in the sky. The supreme dragon. Why would it appear here? The last time a dragon appeared in the Nirvana realm, it was in the West Continent that the seventh miss of the night had demonstrated it once. After that, they never saw the dragon summoned by the seventh miss of the night again. Wait a minute. Yi seventh miss equals Yi Qing Luo equals Imperial Madam. Madam D had a dragon. Could this enormous azure dragon be Lady D's dragon? No, that's not right. They had heard of Madam D's dragon. It was a blue dragon whose entire body was azure blue. Although they had never seen it with their own eyes. However, that was the first time a dragon had appeared in the Nirvana realm. It had long been spread throughout the entire Nirvana realm, no matter how big or small. Lady D's dragon was undoubtedly a blue dragon. Then, this azure dragon, why did it appear here? The huge azure dragon rapidly approached. Only then did everyone realize. There was a vague figure standing on the head of the azure dragon. Amidst the wild gales. That figure's robes fluttered in the wind, making him look like an immortal. One of the corpse puppets looked at the dazed woman and said, "We're too late." Too late, what does that mean? The woman knew this very well, but she was unwilling to accept it just like that. Just at the next moment. That huge dragon's head pressed towards the woman. The dragon's roar soared into the sky, shaking the entire mountain. Chapter 33-36. Following the dragon's breath, it sprayed downwards. It brought about a huge sense of oppression. That voice made the East Wave monarch and the surviving cultivators present revealed a joyous expression. As for Hao Nanren and those people from the dark forces, their faces turned pale instantly. The lady's petite body swayed uncontrollably as her legs suddenly went soft as she fell onto the ground. This was fear from the bottom of her heart. When the green dragon approached and lowered its head, everyone could clearly see that blazing figure on the dragon's head. It's Madam D. Madam D really came out. Madam D is actually sitting on the dragon. Don't tell me this dragon is Madam D's war pet. The cultivators exclaimed in shock as they discussed fervently. His eyes were filled to the brim with this huge dragon. The young lady's lips curled into a sweet smile. She slowly stood up. Even though the green dragon had lowered its body low enough. But to humans, this was equivalent to the height of a 3-story building. Yi Qing Luo opened her arms. Her red sleeves fluttered along with the strong wind. Like a butterfly's wings spreading out. Her lips curled upwards, her ravishing face was like a stream of gold, peerlessly beautiful. "Ah, Xian, I'm back." She laughed lightly, her voice was filled with joy. Finishing her words, she leaped. There was no presence of profound energy on her body. Just like that, he allowed himself to fall down as light as a feather. Swoosh, a light breeze blew past. Her body fell into an embrace. The elegant sandalwood scent seeped into her nostrils. Her delicate body, which had been chilled by the astral wind, was blown away. Yi Qing Luo's arms hooked around his neck, her eyes filled with smiles, her sweet voice softly called out to her lover, "Ah Xian." Done playing. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped, his deep peach blossom eyes seemed to be plated with light, as he gazed deeply at the young lady's face. Yi Qing Luo buried her head into his chest, rubbing against it. The game is still going on, how can it be enough? She raised her head again, smiling at Dmo Xian. Xian's body is a little cold, did he wait for me for an entire night? She knew. After she entered the forbidden grounds, Dmo Xian would absolutely not leave this place. He would be at the entrance, waiting for her. The man looked at the girl in his arms and smiled sweetly. Suddenly, he bent down and gave her a hard peck on her lips. Yi Qing Luo hugged his neck tightly as she giggled. Since Xian is so cooperative, I will reluctantly agree to let you play with me, she purposely dragged out the last word. Her long and narrow eyes curved into a sly arc. She glanced behind her, in the direction of Fox Saint Technique and the other undead puppets. Fox Saint Fa's face turned pale, and his legs turned to jelly as he fell to the ground. He stared at the two people who were hugging each other in shock. You actually really. And Di Zun. How could her fear? It was not just because of the Azure Dragon. And the appearance of Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo came out alive from the forbidden grounds and even contracted. The Azure Dragon which the Palace Lord wanted. Fox Saint Fa already knew about this news last night. But he didn't expect Yi Qing Luo could really control the head of the four sacred beasts, the Azure Dragon sacred beast. Furthermore, she brought the Azure Dragon out of the forbidden grounds. This was totally different from what the Palace Lord had guessed. She didn't expect, after Yi Qing Luo entered the forbidden grounds, Dmo Xian would still be guarding outside the forbidden grounds. Which meant to say, earlier when she appeared with the undead puppets, Dmo Xian had actually been watching by the side. He didn't show his face and didn't take any action. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.